has been front and center in the news. Congressman Filner, do you have any information, any background on this?
I don't, but it's clear that the White House and the Army spokesman that we heard from just a minute ago are in denial about this whole thing. They're saying that the resignation has nothing to do with this. So what are they going to do about it? The spokesman for the Army said, this is not a catastrophic or horrific circumstance. It is. Our young people coming back, the bravest and most courageous people in our society are coming back, and an administration that says support our troops, support our troops, support our troops, says you're on your own when you get out.
Representative Shays, two things. Do you have any information on what's happened with Secretary Winkenwerder? And what is your reaction to what the General Kiley, who was the Army Surgeon General, saying today? In essence, he's saying that these soldiers and Marines who come to Walter Reed are getting the best health care.
Well, I think they get the best surgical care, and certainly they get it in Iraq. I mean, Bob and I have been to facilities in Iraq that just blow you away. And in terms of you get someone into that facility, they stay alive 98% of the time. But when they get here, they get caught up in this incredible bureaucracy. And what I think is interesting is when you have pictures of buildings, you're graphically able to illustrate something that's illustrious of something bigger. The bigger problem is the process of why you would have someone in a hospital for 2 months to 2 years. They want to be discharged in some cases. In other cases, they can come right back in the military. And the problem is the paperwork is just pathetic.
Is that the problem, Congressman Filner? It seems to me we're getting two very different pictures here. We have the Pentagon, the Surgeon General for the Army saying, again, they're getting terrific health care, but then you have these two young Iraq veterans whom I talked to today saying the problem is much more complicated than that the entire system needs an overhaul.
I have to take the testimony of those brave young men who you interviewed, Judy. This is a systemic problem. Again, we're not, I have to point out, Walter Reed is a military hospital. I am a chairman of the Veterans Committee. They're different systems, but the problem is very similar in that let me point out a systemic problem, Judy. The medical records of those who are wounded in Iraq or Afghanistan, kept by the Army or Marines, are not translatable into the VA system. So you have no congruence for analyzing the problem, getting the history in a proper way. You just have two different systems. And you have both the DOD and the VA, which seems intent on saying, we didn't cause this problem in Iraq. You had some pre-existing condition or something else. They are constantly fighting these young people in terms of the benefits that they have earned and have sacrificed for. So we have really deep problems. And I think we have in the Congress find a new way of oversight. The methods that we are using now are just not sufficient.
And Judy, the other problem is you have the active military, and then you have the reservists and National Guard, and they don't really have bases that can give them support. And the systems they use for the reservists and the National Guard are different than the active forces. So we've got a whole hodgepodge of stuff to work out. But one of the things that I think you can be certain of is that you're going to see members of Congress visit these facilities up close and ask to go to the back rooms. I mean, we all visit the soldiers in the front area, and it looks pretty efficient there. But I haven't been into that back area, and I'm eager to do that.
Back area, meaning the outpatient buildings there.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. I want to ask both of you that. Congressman Filner, how do you get to the bottom of this? Because there are so many questions, I think, that have been raised, not only by the post-reporting, but what we've learned in the last few days. How do you find out where the problem is, what the problem is, and then what to do about it?
We should be able to rely on the chain of command, and somebody should be held accountable for this, and we should be able to, but apparently we cannot. I would advocate, for example, a oversight and inspection system that is separate from the agency that is being, in fact, overseen. That is, the Inspector General, although supposedly independent, is really a part of that system. We could do something very quickly. Set up a hotline that is manned by independent people, maybe some veterans who understand these issues, and allow people to report on the situation. As Chris pointed out, as Congress people, we're shown only the best of what is going on. We need an independent, investigative, and oversight kind of function that allows us to really learn what's going on. And then, what is most important, the administration has to hold these people accountable. We've seen today that the head of the health system in the Army resigns, but they claim it has nothing to do with this horrific conditions at Walter Reed. They have got to say, we have made a mistake, here's who's accountable, and they're going.
Congressman Shays, I've had more than one person say to me that they believe at least part of what's going on here is that the military was just not prepared for the number of soldiers and Marines who came back with these kinds of wounds, and in particular for the brain injuries, post-traumatic stress syndrome.
Well, I think that's actually, it couldn't be more on target. I mean, we've done such a great job of saving lives that in the past we wouldn't have been able to save. And a lot of these are IEDs that we were not prepared for. We didn't have up-armored vehicles, so we worked on that. We didn't have the proper body armor, and we worked on that. And when we dealt with the military on this, they say it would be solved in 3 months. I'd go back to Iraq 3 months later, find we still had the problem because they underestimated what they needed to do. So it's been one underestimation after another. The challenge is when you go into a hospital, you really feel that you're a little intrusive. You want to talk to the soldiers, but you don't want to be talking to the soldiers if you're intruding on their personal experience. And so you handle it rather delicately. Our committee has had a number of hearings, and we've dealt with some of these issues. But I think what's been helpful is just seeing the ugly pictures. People can relate to pictures, and then they say, well, if it's like that, the whole system must be. They can understand that the breakup is more than just the pictures.
Congressman Filner, we've also been told by veterans organizations that they've been pointing out these problems for several years. They're saying this is not new. So how do we know, how do people watching this reporting tonight know that this is going to be dealt with once and for all? Or is it just going to, we're just going to move on and more stories will come out months from now? As
I said, we have to have a different, I think, level of oversight. And the resources that ought to be used for these returning young men and women are just not there. I mean, we spend for the war, but we don't spend for the warrior. We are spending $1 billion every 2.5 days in the war in Iraq. But we have to fight for every disability dollar from some soldier who is mentally scarred. That we are just not seeing, with this administration or the Congress, treating these young men and women who come home is part of the cost of war. And we have got to have those resources. We're going to have tens of thousands coming back from Iran and Afghanistan, hopefully soon, with physical maiming and mental scars. We have got to have the resources in place. And right now, we do not.
We're going to have to. We're going to have to.
Let me just say, Judy, there's going to be a lot of hearings, and I think the public will see from those hearings what's going on.
On that note, we will leave it. Representative Chris Shays, Representative Bob Filner. Gentlemen, thank you both.